Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webcast, Get a Grip on Your Contingent Workforce Management with AI, sponsored by Eightfold AI. This webcast has been pre-approved for 1 HRCI and 1 SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive the credits. If you have questions during the Q&A, during the webcast, click Q&A on your webinar controls and type your questions there. Once the presentation has begun, I will share a couple of links in the chat area, one where you can access the slides for the presentation and another for an exit survey. Please be sure to complete the survey as soon as the webcast has ended. Okay, and it is now my pleasure to turn it over to the presenters today.
Rhonda, thanks. I'm Todd Raffel with Eightfold. If you don't know of us, we're an artificial intelligence platform that covers the whole employee life cycle. And I'm here with Shlagna Dasgupta, York Poon. I'm going to let York and Shlagna introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get going. So why don't you all just do a quick intro for each of you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is York Poon. I lead product and design at Eightfold AI. We are a talent intelligence platform solutions, helping companies hire and retain their talent with AI technologies. Before that, I spent over 2 decades building software products, including a majority of the product I work with are talent related, including Upwork and Oracle.
Good. And Shlagna?
Can you hear me now? I think I was on mute.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shlagna Dasgupta. I am the General Manager for New Businesses at Eightfold. My current focus is to build a solution around contingent work. And when I say contingent, it's basically any non-full-time work. So it's gig, it's contingent, it's contract, any of the above. Prior to this, I was a partner at Accenture's Talent and Org Strategy Group. So it's been fun to sort of approach some of the issues that you guys deal with from a services side and now from a product side. Back to you, Todd.
Thanks, Shlagna. Yeah, we're talking about contingent workforce management, which has been a very hot topic the last few years. Given how volatile the economy is, I would not be surprised if it becomes an even hotter topic as companies possibly freeze hiring and then bring people on quickly on a contingent basis and then more on a more permanent basis after that. And we're going to talk, going on to the first slide, about that market, the contingent market. And when you say contingent, it's like a Rorschach test. Some people think Fiverr and Upwork, which if you missed it, York Poon came from Upwork. Other people think of something else, Airbnb. Contingent is a big, is very broad, all the way up to an interim CEO even. So talk to us about what this looks like, the contingent workforce world, field.
Sure, I can go first, Todd, and then York, I'll ask you to sort of chime in. But you know, exactly to your point, Todd, this space has been evolving and very fast. Let's start with what is contingent work, to your point. It's basically anything non-full-time. So yes, when we hear contingent, a lot of times we hear just seasonal bandwidth, you know, from an light industrial standpoint, or we think Uber, or we think Instacart, but it is so much more than that. There is basically, this is, you know, expertise, innovation, research, design, lots of various critical skill sets that are coming into the workforce in a contingent capacity. Why are organizations hiring more and more contingent workers? Number one, there is a huge shortage of talent. Unemployment numbers are at the lowest. But I think the second thing too is that, you know, this is niche talent in a lot of cases that they don't need through the whole course of the year. They just need them for a period of time to come in, evolve something, and then move. You know, if you look at what's happening across most enterprises globally, they're in a state of perpetual disruption, perpetual transformation, which basically means you need supplemental expertise. I keep saying the word expertise a number of times to remind everybody of one major trend that is critical to understand about the contingent workforce. This is no longer seasonal bandwidth. This is knowledge work. This is expertise that is now coming into the workforce in the form of contingent labor. The second thing I want to mention is, on the top right of this page, you see that, very soon 50% of the global workforce will be engaged in a non-full-time capacity. If you dig deeper into that research, what you'll see is you try to understand why is this number increasing? Is it just increasing because we're just looking for more sort of short-term talent, or we're looking for expertise in fits and stops? But that's not the case. What drives that? What's driving a lot of the growth is individuals coming in and saying, "I want to own my personal rhythms." These are not individuals who cannot get full-time jobs. They're smart individuals who, millennials, for example, 65% of them want a side hustle because in their career, they want to contribute to multiple different businesses. So this is a matter of choice. And when you look at that, when you look at what's happening because of the choice people have made, the collaboration tools that are available, and the increasing demand for expertise across organizations, we're going to see this workforce grow more and more. So what does that mean for enterprises? Through all of our conversations in this space, I think the number one thing to think about is, instead of looking at a particular position and saying, this is full-time, this is part-time, this is gig, my 2 cents there is to focus on work. What is the work? Let's understand what is the nature of that work, and then sort of start to decide, is this something that needs to be full-time? Is this something that needs to be contingent? Is it something that needs to be gig? One last thing I'll put in there before handing over to York over here is, when we were building some of these pages, I was thinking about the narrative that I just went through, which is the reason this workforce is growing is because people are owning their personal rhythm. If you look at what's happening to all of us right now, it's also a pandemic that's forcing us to work remote. So I actually am very interested to see what happens going forward, and how this pandemic is going to push us to change behaviors and changes our relationship with work. York, tell us something about what's happening in the technology space here.
Sure. Technology is definitely a key enabler for this trend. In fact, it's one of the biggest driver for the trend of freelancing. Freelancing is another big driver for the growth in contingent workforce. A recent research by Freelancer Union found that 35% of all US workers are freelancing already, with over 60% starting in the last 5 years. So it's a really, really recent momentum. You can see that in this market. The reasons that millennials and Gen Z are more likely to freelance. They like you said, it's a matter of choice for their lifestyle. They want to live wherever they want, but with the technology's help, technologies such as Zoom, Google Doc, like what we're doing right now, virtually meeting each other over Zoom, can really make these remote work happen. And with company like Upwork, which is the largest freelancing marketplace, right? Freelancer can actually find work anywhere around the world. And we also see that millennials and Gen Z are also more likely to hire freelancers. They're more comfortable working with freelancers as well. So definitely technology is making a big difference in this market and making all these connections happening. But technology is not just powering freelancing, not just powering that trend, but also disrupting the traditional agency source contract work model. And I know that we're going to spend a lot of time during this webcast to discuss that topic. Back to you, Todd.
Thanks. Yeah, now on to the next slide. We're thinking about this huge field. We have companies where half or more of their workforces are contingent, where they're spending tens of millions of dollars on contingent work, but far less time and energy managing, hiring, training, retaining contingent work versus full-time, more permanent work. Very strange. It's a broken system. Let's talk about that. Tell me more about that.
Sure. Todd, going back to a lot of what we were talking about on the previous page, what was the genesis? What was the origin story of contingent work? It started during the Industrial Revolution when you're looking for just extra bandwidth. to fill like seasonal needs. As a result, the main focus on a lot of the contingent hiring used to be availability, like what date and time are you available? And secondly, the budget, like how much are you able to pay? Now, the composition of this workforce has changed drastically. And you have more knowledge workers in this workforce, which basically means you need much more rigorous assessment techniques to understand who you're actually hiring. The other thing I want to mention is that if you look at contingent workforce programs, of course, there are some exceptions where it's very well thought through and very well integrated between procurement and HR. There are many, many organizations that we are talking to where there is no consistent program in place. And what's happening as a result is procurement has something going on, but a lot of the hiring managers are sort of going out and just referring their friends or someone they worked with in the past and bringing them into the organization. And who's to say what was the rigor in hiring that individual? Now, you could come back and say, but Shilak, now how does it matter? This individual, as long as the hiring manager is happy and they're just going to work there for 3 to 4 months and their job is done, boom. No, I think that there is a very big component here around data. Depending on who you're hiring and what are the talent outcomes of your organization, it's actually going to have an implication on who you're going to hire next and what your data is going to look like. And I'm sure York is going to talk more about that. But the other thing too here is there is a major loss in translation in this entire landscape, because it's a crowded space with, you have the hiring manager, you have the MSP, you have the suppliers, you have the workers, and no single technology that sort of brings all of these pieces together. So on that point, York, what are you seeing from a tech innovation standpoint in this space?
Sure. So traditionally, the businesses rely on systems such as vendor management system, VMS. Examples of VMS like and Beeline to be their system of record. Making this system are very good at making sure that the workflow data is kept, and also making sure everyone are doing their part so that they are compliant with the regulations. So in general, I would say that the VMS system are doing a good job at those tasks, right? And that they are widely popular for business as a tool for them to use to manage their contingent workforce. However, the focus of these systems are really on record keeping and policy enforcement. They're not really designed to help businesses and decision makers to make better decisions. They're not helping hiring managers to identify who is the right person for this job I have right now. What makes specific candidates special that I should pay attention to? They're also not really helping candidates who are looking for the next gig. What's the right work for me? What's the next gig that I should look at? Why this matter to me from my career point of view? So there is emerging space or a new breed of system we call talent intelligence platform, TIP as abbreviations. This type of system powered by AI technology such as machine learning, and is designed to fill this particular need. It's designed to leverage data to help decision makers and candidates to make better decisions and at scale. And that's what AI is good at. These platforms help companies develop and grow their talent network, keeping track of all talent data, not just who they are, but what they're good at, what skills they have, what experience that matter, who they work with, what project they have worked on. It also these systems also track talent data, not just your current employees, but also your past candidate, your current applicants, your alumni. So you really help you get your arms around all the people that you may need to work with in the future, right? So it's really, this is actually growing the assets that you have. and so that you can be much effective in executing your business strategy in the future with the right people. The leading solution in this space leverage your internal data and also your external data, such as Wikipedia, such as job boards, such as a database of resumes, to really help enrich your understanding of your talent. And also leverage cutting-edge AI technologies, such as machine learning and predictive modeling, to help hiring managers to find the best matches among all possible leads that's available to them, including rediscovering past contractors whose contract may be about to expire, or past referral that was referred to you by your trusted colleague, and who happen to be a great lead for the new grad that you have right now. So it's really a very powerful tool. The best solutions in this space would look at not just what a person can do today, but also the trajectory of this person's career and make recommendation based on the person's potentials. And that again, a human eyes could not tell. I could not distinguish. Well, it's very hard for you to judge what's the potential of this person's. But with AI technology, with a lot of data that's aggregated for the machine to understand, now the machine can build a pattern. What is the likely next step for this person, and then use that as a way to match with the rec you have on hand. But not just for the business, these technologies also help the workers themselves. These technology can help create a unique experience that's really personalized for each individual persons who are looking for their next gig. They can personalize the experience based on their skill sets, their background, and maybe recommend them the most suitable next step for their career. And also provide maybe relevant content and talent branding content really, and that is resonating with this candidate, so that they understand, oh wow, I'm not just getting a job, I'm not just taking on a gig, but also I'm joining a team that I can work with, I can grow, and I'm working on a subject matter that really matter to me and resonate with me. And I think that's the power of AI that can be brought to the table by these technologies.
That's super interesting, York. I really liked what you said about the worker experience. You know, in the full-time world, there is so much thought and research and technology out there that helps with the employee experience, but who's focused on the worker experience? And I really liked your narrative around how some of this new technology can enhance the worker experience. I think before we move to the next page, one other quick point that I'd love to mention over here is there is a big implication on spend. So if you look at what York was saying, that if you're using a technology now, which is going to help you uncover talent that's already sitting in your database, that could exponentially change the spend that you're making on agency staffing, for example. Today, most of the hiring for knowledge workers in the contingent capacity happens through agencies, and it's extremely expensive and time consuming. And I think that there is a solve for that. If you go to the next page.
So we've talked about the contingent workforce market. We've talked about it's broken, how it's broken. We've touched on, you started touching on how to fix it. York was talking about using artificial intelligence to fix it, getting a lot more information about contingent workers. Talk to us more about it. What do you need to do to fix this challenge?
Absolutely. I think York and I are, fiercely out of script over here, and we have a problem solving already. But when we were talking about how to basically bring this complex space and break it down into 3 big chunks, we wanted to spend the rest of the time in these 3 buckets. So we want to talk a little bit about the worker. When you think about the worker, today it's a resume. What should it look like tomorrow, so that you have a very deep understanding of the worker's potential, not just today, but at any given time, at any moment of time, you know what that individual is doing and what their true potential is. We then want to spend a little bit of time talking about the requirement. You know, too often, and if there is a recruiter on this call, they're probably nodding with me right now, that, you know, the job description that the hiring managers often write is not very well written. And the poor recruiter gets blamed for, you know, submitting resumes that are not matching the requirement really well, because the requirement has not been explained very well in a job description. So how do you understand, how do you calibrate the true DNA for success in a position without making it a very time-consuming process? We all know that, you know, if time to fill is a few weeks in full-time hiring, I think in contingent hiring, it's probably down to days. So how do you make sure that you go through the entire process quickly and understand the requirement for success very well? And then the last thing we wanted to touch on is the program. There are some of these programs that roll up to HR, some roll up to procurement, and some organizations we're seeing those two come together. But then there's also MSPs and VMSs and staffing agencies. So we put some thoughts together on what this program could and should look like in the future. We go to the next page.
Okay. This is a resume of Leonardo da Vinci. You see there on the right. You're going to talk about a couple of things about this resume. Yes, it's old, but the resume hasn't changed a whole lot for hundreds of years. And two, the resume is so heavily relied upon that hasn't changed a whole lot. We haven't augmented our reliance with much else over these hundreds of years. Resume hasn't changed, and we still rely on it like crazy. Correct? Tell us more about that.
This is definitely the favorite part of my favorite part of the storytelling. But you know, for a second, I'll ask everybody to just, you know, disrupt everything that you know in your heads about hiring and how you approach a resume. And Todd is so right that, you know, for all of time, we've always done any hiring or any succession planning or staffing or anything where it's that moment of truth when you're looking for a person and matching them to a requirement. We've looked at their resume. We've started there and we've gone from there. The reason we talk about Leonardo da Vinci, this is probably one of the most fascinating stories of how his true potential was not clear at all in his resume. So if you read through that gorgeous handwriting over there, you know, it talks about his interest in science and math, and it just very cursorily mentions that, you know, he also enjoys painting and he enjoys art. But you and I, when we hear about Da Vinci or we think of the name, it's definitely his art, which is the most memorable. Now, why is that the case? And, you know, why does his true potential not show up? And I think the simple answer there is we looked at what he wrote in his resume, but we never looked at his context. I can bet you that if we went and spoke with everybody that he worked with or he engaged, or, you know, what he did, where he did it, who else was there, what were they doing, and all of those other signals which tell you a little bit more about the individual's context, you will know what the true potential of that individual is. Human beings, especially women, me included, we are really bad self-assessors. So when we write our resumes, we don't do a very good job of explaining what our true potential is. Now, on top of that, think about the way recruiting works. You know, it's keyword search based traditionally. So you're just taking what I've written in the resume, which is inadequate, and then you're just running, you know, keyword or Boolean searches on that, which means you're not hiring me for my full potential. I'll give you, you know, a small example of my own. Like I mentioned, I was a partner at Accenture before this. So if you look at my resume and if you look at, you know, what I've talked about, it's all about, you know, talent strategy and a little bit of M&A and org strategy. So you'll be like, yeah, that's all that Shalagna knows. I don't say in my resume that I know AI. I wouldn't dare to because, you know, it's not my area of expertise. But if you want to truly know my potential, you have to look at the fact that I work with York. I work with you, Todd. I work with, you know, our founders at Eightfold, which basically will tell someone who's trying to understand my context that, maybe she can at least be dangerous enough in an AI conversation because she was part of an organization where a lot of people had very deep expertise in AI and ML. So she might know a little bit, she's just not giving herself credit for it. And I think that's when you know the true potential of an individual, when you're looking at what they're saying about themselves, but also what their context is saying about them. York, you're a master at this. So what are your
Yeah, definitely. What's missing is definitely the context, and a human being actually can create some context by reading the resumes of a person. So, oh, this person worked at Facebook between 2010 and 2015 as a software architect. Yeah, so I can get a sense of what this person most likely will be doing, etc. However, it's not really precise. And like you said, a lot of time, the candidate doesn't even know some of the context that he or she need to provide. And you know, by just looking at that entry in the resume, you do not know how good this person is and what skills this person might have been using during her tenure at Facebook. How does she compare to other people in a similar role and capacity? And when she claimed her ability in certain skill sets, is it really true? You know, I do not know, right? And especially as a recruiter who looking through hundreds of resumes every day, it's just very difficult to build that context. And it's not because it's not because we're not good at our job. It's just the basic limitation of human being when we're limited by the data we have, right? And the data can be extremely voluminous that for any human being to understand, right? And also we are limited by in a techie way to say, the processing power of our brain. We're just not processing all this data fast enough. And that's where the AI excels and coming into the picture, right? A great talent intelligence platform, a great tip, would deploy technologies and AI that would analyze millions and millions of these resumes and continue to update the knowledge base of the database of the systems, and also look at the billions of career events that are documented on this resume and profiles, and analyzing a trend, analyzing patterns, and provide recruiters and hiring managers and also the candidate the context of these resumes, right? When they claim they are a software architect at Facebook during that period, we look at all the other software architects work at Facebook during that period, and look at the skills they use, the project they work on, and now we start building a pattern, a generic persona for a person who worked at Facebook during that period as a software architect. And now we can compare that generic profile with the person's resume that you're looking at right now. And all of a sudden, some incredible insights will can be surfaced. That's unprecedented. But you can tell whether this person's is there any skills that she claimed is really possessed by other people in the same role during the period of time, as a way to validate whether what she claimed is correct or is likely to be true or not, right? Or maybe there are skills that she did not claim in her resumes, but all the other people in the same capacity at Facebook did claim, right? And in that case, most likely this person just forgot to claim that she has that capabilities. Or by comparing this person with other people who are in the same role during the period, we can start rank them and see how good she is, like how fast she's moving up within Facebook in that role, what kind of responsibility she has gained over time. And now all of a sudden we can tell the recruiters how likely she's a top performer or not, right? And so these are the insight that without a large amount of data that beyond human can comprehend, and also a machine learning technologies and also a fast processing power to provide by our technologies, you just cannot have those. But with a great talent intelligence platform technology product, now you have access to this, and now you can make better decisions based on these insights that nobody else have, and that's the power of the AI powered technology that we're talking about here. Another thing I wanted to point out is that these insights can also provide really personalized experience for our candidate. And one example that is my favorite is how could we leverage these technologies to solve or to improve your hiring of underrepresented talent, right? There are many studies by institutions like Harvard University or Cornell have indicated clearly that underrepresented talent, such as female candidates, are less likely to apply and more hesitate to apply for a specific role or rank. And because they want to feel they are well qualified for that position before they actually hop in. And with AI, with the technology I just described, now we can actually tailor-make an experience for these candidates at scale. When they upload their resume, we can analyze, parse their resume, understand what they're good at, what they have done before, and then surface a recommended list of positions that are well suitable for them. And we don't consider just what they can do today, but what they also logically is a next step for their career, and before we make their recommendations. And we can also service relevant content, maybe a team of people that she will be joining that will resonate with her, right? People they can aspire to learn with, to learn from, people they feel like they can fit in, right? Or we can service a set of content like videos and blogs that are of interest of this particular candidate. In fact, that we deploy this technology in our career sites product for contingent labor or for full-time hires. And we're seeing data that's showing that with technologies, female candidates as a proportion of overall applicants have increased between 10 to 15%. And that is significant, statistically significant. And so we know it works. And they actually solve, is an example of how AI can help you solve the biggest problem in hiring underrepresented talent is actually the sourcing part of it. How they increase the first step of the funnel, the actual number of people who are actually available for you to hire in that category. So I'm just fascinated by this technology, and I really think that everyone should check this out and see how they can help further their the talent strategy in your company. Back to you, Todd.
Thanks. Yeah, if you're just getting on the webinar, I'm Todd Raffello with Eightfold, Shlagman Dasgupta, York Poon, talking about managing a contingent workforce. York, he's previously from Upwork. He's saying some really fascinating things. If you missed it, he's talking about how AI can see that if you were a software architect at Facebook during certain years, it will automatically know what skills you're likely to have. He was saying that if you were an architect there, it would know what skills you have versus someone else at a different company, even if you had the same title. The AI has seen so much data and so many profiles that it knows this information just from where and when you worked. So interesting stuff. And then at the end, he was talking about more on the front end, like a career site, how you can use artificial intelligence to match your skills to open jobs, and how that's a big benefit to diverse professionals, particularly women. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to talk about hiring for potential. Now, so little hiring for potential actually goes on. Companies have a job that's open. It has a title like customer service manager, and they think inside that box, I'm going to go find a customer service manager. So rarely do they think, well, who has the potential based on the skills they have to move into that job? York, I'm going to talk more about this hiring for potential concept, which is so building blocks of contingent workforce management?
Yeah, sure. So to hire for potential, the first steps is actually going back to data. To hire someone is not just looking at what they can do today, right? That is important, of course, but hiring someone actually, even regardless it's a contract a worker or a full-time employee, you are investing in that person, right? You are handing them a very important task and expect that person to learn and grow when they're working on that task, right? Because the fact of the matter is that most people would know about 50% of the work of the knowledge they needed to do their work, and they learn as they after they get on the job and start working on the subject matter, and they have to learn fast and go fast, right? And in that capacities. So the first step for to have a best match between the job and the person is to understand what they can do, right? And and that's why data is super important. And in fact, and coming back to technologies, people are fascinated by what AI can do. But one most important understanding about AI is that data drives AI. You know, the data that you have about your past applicants, your past contractors, data that you about your current employees, and in fact about your alumni, right? Are super important. They're probably one of the most important assets you have as a company, right? And these data can be fed into the AI technologies. So for the AI that I said previously, to build this talent network, this database, and including data from all your past contractor and referrals, and the current employee and current contractors, and then you have the data around not just about your current talent, but also external and external sources, right? Sources such as job boards, such as database, external database like LinkedIn, right? Company data. You know, we know this person worked for a company ABC, but it's very important to know what that company does. What are they good at? What kind of project they have? And so by combining both the internal data that you have and also the external data, now the system can start building a pictures who will have the highest potential to succeed at the current task. Okay.
Hey York, you know, before we keep moving, this is super fascinating, but I want to ask you one question for the benefit of our audience today. That, you know, every time I have this conversation, one major thing that comes up is bias. You know, when people hear about AI and machine learning, especially in the HR tech space, that's definitely one fear around, you know, does it actually introduce bias? And most organizations are now trying to be consciously unbiased. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely, and it's a real issue that, and that is, but I think it's a solvable issues. Right, the best best solution in the talent intelligence platform space should be designed with unbiased matching in mind from the very beginning. Right, they have to identify specific what we call signals, such as gender, such as race, such as age, any other personal characteristic. And we make sure that the algorithm do not consider those, right? That could lead to unconscious bias, right? The system should not consider stated term that may review gender, age, or ethnicity. For example, the words women in tech, or certain a membership of a certain sorority, or have certain specific interest, right? Sometimes that would actually reveal information that would lead to unconscious bias. And the fact of the matter is just that everyone's biased. We bring our own background and history to the table. We can be trained to a certain extent to guard against those, but it's almost impossible. And that's why technology can help you by actually present you the data that really only relevant to the decision that you try to make, and actually hide and anything that's irrelevant. to that decision. So not just the algorithm, but also the presentation of the data is super important. That's why I said the design of the system from both the algorithm, but also the user experience for the decision maker is super important. In addition to that, systems such as Eightfold should also employ, and we do employ, the sophisticated techniques such as equal opportunity algorithms, right? That would constantly check and audit automatically for bias in your algorithms, right? And these are the techniques that require special knowledge, but can be done. That can help you safeguard against those unconscious bias that we all have. And there's also other thing that the solution provider can do. One of the best practices to undergo periodic audit to allow a trained pair of human eyes look at the actual data that's produced by the system and make sure that beyond the stuff we all just said, all the other automatic technical process we can do, a human can also look at it on a periodic basis and adjust along the way. And the best solution in this space definitely should do that, and have been doing that as well.
That's super helpful. Todd,
Yeah.
back to you.
No, I just want to continue to add a little bit more to this. Sure. And so if you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So with data, right, the data we just talked about, both the internal data, your past applicants, your past contractors, your current employee, your alumni, and also how you have been hiring, like what type of people that you have hired and brought into your company, and also like how well they have been performing the task, right? What are the feedback for these candidates you brought into the organizations? All those data, and combine them with external data, again, such as Wikipedia, such as US News ranking on university and colleges, such as LinkedIn and other profile database, etc. Now the system can analyze these data in combined fashion, in a holistic way, and develop a model which predict what's the most likely next role a person can take. Like in this example, this person and history from San Jose State, and then subsequently got an MBA of Kansas State, right? And then after school, she joined. Sorry. They might, yeah. Then she joined a company autonomy to be a senior BDR, and subsequently promoted into sales for sales and both enablement at another company called Eightfold. Now that that is a trajectory of a person's that person's career, and the system essentially analyzed millions of these similar person's profiles and similar experience, and then start building a pattern. Okay, based on this pattern, what's the most likely next step for this person to take on? And so that become the potential this person have, right? Now, on top of that, we also look at the top performers in this current node, both internally within your company and externally on all the other data source we have had. And also look at all the past outcome data. How, for the contract that you hire in the past, what are the feedback they have received from their hiring manager? What are the longevity of them staying in the company, and what kind of project they take on, what kind of skills they have, and then now we can see now we can analyze not just the text on the job descriptions, what this is required, but actually what it really take to succeed in this role. Right, and now with these two information, the system can do a very good job matching, on one hand, what this person can do today, as well as what they can become in the near future, right? But on the other hand, also what you really truly need for this role, right? And also not today, but also in the future for this role. Now, then do that match and make a random lead of people that can available for this role, for the hiring manager to reach out, for the recruiter to reach out and to screen. And that's the beauty of an AI-powered matching engine.
Good, thank you. Let's go on to the next slide. We talked about Schlager, you went through three things: worker and requirements, and the third was program, right? Worker, requirements, program. Talk to us about this third program that are necessary for improving contingent workforce management.
Absolutely. And before I do, Rhonda, just click it once more. We got fancy with the animation here. There you go. Perfect. So, so thanks, York, in sort of helping us understand, how AI can help with understanding the worker potential really well, and then, completely deconstructing a requirement down to what success would look like in that position. So let's just take those two Lego blocks and now start to put it in the context of a contingent work program. How can you bring some of this, the technology chops that York just talked about, and put it into a cohesive program that would reduce your spend, that would reduce your time to fill, but really elevate the quality of talent that you're bringing in through the program. So let's start with the bottom of this page. Those of you that run contingent worker programs or have used contingent worker programs, you have a vendor management system. So the examples that York mentioned, Beeline and Fieldglass, etc. You have that. The idea there is that an intelligence platform can ingest that data and basically not just help you do the matching of individuals that's relevant for a particular requisition, but actually rediscover talent that's already sitting inside the VMS. The second thing I want to mention, and this is coming up more and more in a lot of the conversations we are having, is the ATS. The ATS silver medalists are actually a very interesting talent pool that's relevant for contingent hiring. Imagine how cool it would be when you're looking at full-time hiring, and when the individual is sort of filling out the application form, you ask a question, would you be interested in contingent positions with us? And they say yes. You basically take that data and bring it into your talent intelligence platform for contingent hiring as well. What you're doing is you're using the network of people you already have to source contingent hiring. And thereby you're reducing your spend. You're not having to go to agencies again and again. The other thing I want to say is look at the bottom right-hand side of this page, right? You might have talent that's sitting in your vendor management system or your ATS, both of those examples that I mentioned, but that data could be old. So let's say 5 years back, somebody applied for an internship to your organization, and that resume is sitting in your database today. It's basically, garbage for you. I mean, it's not relevant anymore. It's not going to get matched to any job anymore because it's just sort of, first in, never out. It's just going to sit there. With the use of intelligence platforms like, the ones that we've been discussing, what we're able to do is bring in a lot of public data to actually create an instant update to that profile. So now that intern who you had 5 years back, whose resume is just sitting in your database, all of a sudden you've been able to get an instant update on who they are today and what are the skills they've acquired and what are the experiences that they've had. And who knows, they might actually be a really good match for a contingent worker position in your organization. So first things first is think of your data strategy. What are the different data sources that you can plug in? Not just your agencies, but who's already in your VMS? Could there be silver medalists in your ATS you could look at? Could you think of like a referral program for contingent work that you can bring in? Are there alternate talent pools like the ones that York was mentioning, returning moms, veterans, other workforces that you can bring in as your data? To update your data, use the intelligence platform that can actually keep that data updated on an ongoing basis so that resumes you've received even like 6 months back are not just useless for you, but you can unleash the potential of that data that's in there for you. And then if you look at the top of this page, there are 5 major things that you can do with a program like that. Number one is, of course, worker acquisition. You're doing it faster, you're reducing your spend, you're improving quality. Rediscovery, I think, is an interesting one where you're building a longer term relationship with the worker. And of course, within the sort of guardrails of co-employment and not stepping on any co-employment landmines there, but you're able to actually, a worker who's had a really good experience in your organization before they roll off, you're now able to go back and say, there is this other opportunity starting in about 3 weeks from now in a different part of the organization. Would you be interested in it? The third thing is direct sourcing. So just the way you have, career sites for full-time hiring, why wouldn't you actually consider direct sourcing for contingent labor in partnership with your payroll provider or your MSP? That's very doable using an intelligence platform. The fourth is diversity. I think this should be at the core of any of these contingent work programs. We talk a lot about driving diversity in the full-time part of the equation, but we don't talk about it and celebrate it as much as we should. If this is going to be 50% of the workforce, we absolutely have to have an eye on what is the profile, what is the diversity profile of your contingent workforce, and not just the workforce that's engaged, but your entire network. What is the data telling you? Who's in there? And then the last thing is, of course, analytics. As the owner of a contingent workforce program, always knowing and having on your fingertips, what does your pipeline look like? Is it efficient enough? What does the diversity metrics look like? What does your skill profile look like? And then, of course, with platforms like this, what is happening to spend? Are you able to self-source some of the skills that you were originally going constantly to agencies for? Can you actually rediscover it and your spend is starting to go down? What do the analytics look like over there? So it's a very different way of thinking about bringing a whole program together, being very strategic about what data you have, how you're keeping it updated, and how it's manifesting into a fully comprehensive program that grows your talent network. We just go to the next page. Sorry, York, did you have anything to add to that previous page? My bad.
Yeah, actually, I just want to add one more point. And I think one thing that we haven't covered a lot is this platform aspect of this talent intelligence platforms solution. And it's very important because with this platform, now you have access to all types of talents that you have. Can be college grad, can be your full-time employee, can be past applicants, or even, and then also all your contractors related talent data. And now allow you to be at the vantage point to see all these options and make strategic decisions about your staffing and about your execution of a specific project. And the best way to illustrate that is an example, right? For example, your company want to start a call center in South Carolina. Right? There's building a new call center there. It's a project. It's one of the most important projects that you have for this quarter. The problem is that to complete this project, you need many different types of people to execute, to help, to work on it. You may need a full-time program manager who have experience in building call centers in US, right? Maybe there's someone that you consider internally by looking at your internal employees, right? Who are available, who have the skill set, who may need to be upskilled and almost there, and maybe this project will reset this person up to be the next superstar program manager in the company, right? You may need a regulation and specialist in North Carolina who was familiar with the local environmental law. I don't know, something like that, right? Well, maybe this person can be a freelancer. You don't need this person full time. You need this person only 20 hours a week for 6 weeks, for 2 months, right? Maybe a freelancing option, freelancer is a better option for this, right? And now you may need to hire a team of contracted customer support specialists to staff the call center. And that maybe would look into your talent pool of contract workers, and we discover someone that you probably have previously worked with, and or who have recently left their current job and moved to South Carolina, and now you have a new need there, and maybe you can find those people and add to your team, right? Now, this is an example. All of a sudden, within seconds, you will see all the options available. You can start planning out who you need, what type of skill you need, who are the best match, what's the best option to solve this talent. And it's a very powerful tool. And all of a sudden, contingent labor become a very strategic piece within the overall talent solutions that company need. And I think that is the true power of a platform such as this one.
We're getting a little tight on time, so let me hear if the two of you have any closing final advice. And if anyone has a question, please put it in the Q&A section. We're going to try to take a question before we go the next 5 minutes. So just, do the two of you have any other thoughts on moving to a better way to manage contingent workforce is?
Sure, I can go first, and then York, I'll hand it to you. But you know, this slide was basically just saying, bringing it all together. We've talked a lot about AI, we've talked about intelligence, we've talked about potential, etc. But what does it mean for those that are running these programs across organizations? It's bringing a whole strategy together where you reimagine the program goals, in the sense you look at what is the role of contingent workforce for my future. Today, it's a very reactive program. Could we get to a mode where you get to a proactive approach, you know, very similar to what York was talking about, the platform approach, that are there roles which will always be contingent, and how do I solve for that? This is a game of partnerships. You know, we have our MSP partners, we have VMS partners, and bringing this level of intelligence in is going to mean alignment, not just internally, but externally across this entire landscape. And I think that that is going to be absolutely critical to bring everybody together. Building a roadmap of how much of, you know, intelligence you want to bring in and how you want to manage that change, which sort of goes into this next point around, you know, creating awareness across your organization that bringing intelligence in is going to reduce spend. It's going to get you higher quality. All you have to do is these few steps. That's basically what I wanted to leave everybody with, that, you know, yes, there's AI, buying the product or buying a solution or designing it is not enough, but a lot of it is bringing it to life and operationalizing it through alignment and through change. York?
Yeah, my advice is, I have two pieces of advices. Number one, data is super important. In fact, it's one of the most important assets you have as an organization, as a company. Data of your talent, of your contingent workers, of your contingent works themselves are super important. Take good care of your data, understand them, and leverage them to make better decisions. And secondly, just check out these talent intelligence platforms out there. They are the cutting edge technology that you can leverage today to make a difference. They're going to help you make better decision at scale, right? So think data, think platform, think strategies. That those are the future, and the contingent worker space is going to change because of these technologies.
Let's get to at least a couple of the questions we have, and I actually think you might have, Shalong, I think it was, touched on this. So we've thrown a ton of information out of people. So Lord knows I understand that not everything made sense the first time. So one question was about, did you say that applicant tracking systems are sources of contingent employees? Talk to us about that.
Yes, so it can absolutely become a source. So if you're looking at your ATS, and right now these two are watertight compartments, the ATS and the VMS start because of employment laws and the way these two programs run. One of the perspectives that we've brought to the table is, you know, what if you ask individuals who are getting onboarded into your ATS or who are applying into your ATS, would you be open to contingent work? And if they just check yes, you now have their permission to consider them for contingent work. So you basically just take that data feed and put it into your contingent work program using an intelligence platform. And right off the bat, you've now sort of increased the you know, source of talent. You've increased your funnel drastically because you're now shopping within your own network. You're not having to go to an agency.
According to my clock, it's 10:59. I don't think we have time for another question, but please contact us. If we did not get to your question and you have them, we will answer them. Again, I'm Todd Raffel with Eightfold. This was York Poon and Shlagna Dasgupta from Eightfold, talking about the management of contingent workers and how to improve that management for an entire enterprise. Rhonda is also here with us from HR.com.
Yes, and thank you so much to all three of you. What an excellent webcast. It is our pleasure to host this. So also thank you to the members for joining us today. And if you'd like to view the webcast again, the archive recording will be available on HR.com within 24 hours. Your webcast credit will show in your HR.com account within 2 business days. We'll also send you an email with your credit information. So an exit survey popped open in a new browser on your computer. Your feedback's important to us and to the folks at Eightfold, so please be sure to fill out that survey. All right, this concludes the webcast. Again, thanks so much, folks. Take care.